Bueno, Alberto, el presidente de Corea del Sur encarcelado en una celda individual en un centro de detención en Seúl después de que una corte dictaminara el 18 de enero su ingreso en prisión por encabezar una rebelión, según informó la agencia Yonhap. Ya sabéis todo lo que pasó. Jung fue trasladado a una celda de 12 metros cuadrados en el centro de detención de Wiwang, en el sur de Seúl, indicó el medio citando al responsable del sistema correccional de Corea. Normalmente esta celda dice que habitualmente es para 6 personas. Bueno, detenido.
Pues fantástico, porque eso implica que hay países en el mundo que tienen cierta independencia judicial. Siento envidia como español del sistema político de Corea del Sur. Sus parlamentarios, nada más producirse el intento de golpe de Estado, en bloque echaron atrás esa ley que pretendía un líder de partido de muchos de esos parlamentarios. Es decir, fueron independientes, fueron valientes. De verdad, amigos magos, siento envidia de lo que se está viviendo en Corea del Sur, en la que a un traidor absoluto, al que se quería enviar contra Corea del Norte a su país para abrirle un frente a Rusia, acaba entre rejas. Es que es fantástico, de verdad. Pocas veces en geopolítica podemos dar buenas noticias. Hoy algunas son buenas, pero ninguna tan buena como esta, amigos magos. Fantástico. Ya podría tomar nota España, entre otros. Seguimos, Miguel.
Well, what would you do if you found out that your employer, your place of employment, was doing some pretty awful and evil things, that your company was performing illegal child sex surgeries, that your company was administering fraudulent cross-sex hormones? Cross-sex hormones, by the way, which have been banned in multiple countries by now. I think everyone watching would do something about it if you thought that this was affecting children, right? You would probably come forward. You might blow the whistle on that. That's exactly what our next guest did, Vanessa Sivage. She's a nurse who exposed child sex surgeries happening at her place of employment at the Texas Children's Hospital. But instead of being praised for it, she was fired, and the FBI showed up at her house. Watch these overweight FBI agents show up at her house. Watch.
Hello? Hi. I'm looking for Vanessa Sivage. Okay. Yeah. Who are you? Cassie. I'll make some FBI agent. Okay. This is Mr. McBride. Hey, I'm David McBride. Okay. Nice to meet you, sir. It's been a pleasant interaction. You're not in trouble nor shame. Okay. All right. Hi, how are you? She snuck up on you there. You want to see too? Are we interrupting dinner? I'm really sorry.
That's all right. What's going on?
Let me start at the beginning. So I'm sure you're aware of some of the things that have been going on at your work lately.
With regards to?
Yeah. So can we sit down for a minute? Let me do my song and dance.
And Vanessa Sivage joins us now. Thank you so much for your bravery and blowing the whistle on this and coming on the show. We appreciate it. Thank you, Vanessa.
Oh, it's an honor to be with you.
So where do things stand now? Maybe you can walk our audience through exactly what happened here and how you discovered what they were doing when you notified them, asked for a transfer, FBI shows up at your house. There's a lot to unpack here, but maybe you can kind of walk our audience through what you discovered.
Absolutely. Well, it's an honor to share my story with your listeners. So thank you so much for having me on. I'm a registered nurse, born and raised in Houston, Texas, and accepted what I consider to be my dream job at Texas Children's Hospital in 2018. Texas Children's Hospital is the jewel of the Texas Medical Center, which is the largest medical center in the world. And Texas Children's is the #1 pediatric hospital in the United States. It is very prestigious. And parents come from all over the globe for their children to be treated by the best of the best at this hospital. And so naturally, accepting this job was a huge deal for me. I thought I was going to be here for the rest of my career until I accepted a new role in a pediatric multi-specialty clinic in 2021. And as a part of this clinic, the endocrinology clinic took place on a weekly basis. And in that endocrinology clinic was the gender clinic. And I started seeing children confused about their sex come on a weekly basis and leave with a prescription for a cross-sex hormone. I was very concerned very early on. I saw parents who are well-meaning and who love their child deeply come to see the doctor to only to leave with the impression that if their child was not initiated down this path of medical transition and irreversible harm, that their child would commit suicide, that they would harm themselves. And no parent wants to be responsible for that happening to their child. So unfortunately, I believe many parents were manipulated into affirming this for their child. And I didn't know what to do about it. I felt very overwhelmed in this gargantuan medical institution. I felt very outnumbered, very helpless. But I knew I had to do something. And that really came to a head one day when the doctor asked me to walk into the room of a patient and teach them how to administer an intramuscular injection at home. And this is not uncommon. Many nurses do a variety of patient teaching every single day. And so this was not an uncommon request. But what was uncommon is that later on, as I was remembering what I had taught this patient to do, it dawned on me that this was a transgender boy, a boy who was identifying as a girl, and who would utilize what I had taught him to administer estrogen to himself on a weekly basis at home to affirm the false identity that he had adopted. And that was devastating to me as a nurse and as a Christian, as a person of faith. There was no doubt in my mind that this would harm this boy for life. The longer a child is on cross-sex hormones, the more damaging and the more irreversible they become. And I was devastated, specifically looking at the girls very quickly. There are so many girls who are in a place of deep distress about their body. They're going through a hard time with puberty. They're seeking that affirmation and that acceptance with their peers. And many of these girls who were transgender, who were confused about their gender, I should say, also had histories of abuse. They had histories of mental health issues. They had histories of suicide attempts. And so as a nurse who's trying to piece all of this together, this was very devastating for me. And so this all came to a head one day in May of 2023 when a courageous whistleblower came forward to reveal that my hospital, Texas Children's Hospital, was providing gender-affirming care under the radar in secret. And parents and lawmakers had no idea that this was going on because the hospital had scrubbed the existence of this transgender program from the public. It was not on their website. It was nowhere online. And so the public had no idea that this was going on. But I knew that it was going on because I was a nurse working in this clinic and seeing the harm that was being done to these children. So I read this article, and this courageous whistleblower who came forward to reveal what was being done behind closed doors. And so I decided to also come forward anonymously at that time. I provided my testimony. I worked with journalist Christopher Rufo at that time. And I essentially said, yes, this is happening. No one knows about it because it's nowhere on the internet, but children are being seen in this robust transgender clinic. A couple of days later, the Texas legislature voted to ban gender-affirming care and cross-sex hormones for minors under the age of 18. And that is largely due to the courage of this previous whistleblower who came before me, because many Democrats on our state legislature flipped their votes because they saw what was happening at Texas Children's Hospital, the harm that was being done to children. So that law was passed and signed into effect in September of 2023. And that was a move in the right direction. That was a good thing for the protection of children in the state. But I never imagined what would happen as a result of my anonymous whistleblowing. I thought that I was going to resume my work as normal. I thought that things would go back to the way they were. But the FBI showed up to my house 2 months later. In July of 2023, I was eating dinner with my husband and some friends at home, and lo and behold, there's a knock on the door. And it's a clip that was posted on X, as you just played. It's been viewed over 6 million times. Because these agents came to my home, and the first thing they said to me was, "We know of your views against transgender medicine. We know what you believe. And you are a person of interest," they told me, "in an investigation targeting a whistleblower who had, in their words, violated HIPAA confidentiality laws by releasing patient information to the public." They did not call him a whistleblower. They called him a leaker. And they said that he had broken the law, and they were wanting to recruit my help to expose his identity to the world. And it was a terrifying encounter, one that I will never forget. They issued a series of veiled threats. They threatened my career. They threatened my safety. They said that they couldn't help me. They couldn't protect me if I did not aid them in their investigation. They said they would make life very difficult for me if I did not comply. And so it dawned on me that instead of...
Hold on. I'm sorry. I just want to be clear about this. The FBI threatened you.
Yes.
Threatened your safety. Threatened
Yes.
your future if you didn't work with them. It threatened violence somehow. I mean, this is unbelievable. These people targeting brave Americans, patriotic Americans for calling out what they're doing to children, and they're threatening you?
It's hard to believe. It's something that I think many people considered, this only happens in like North Korea or China. This doesn't happen here in the United States, much less in Texas, a red state. This can't possibly be happening here. And yet it happened to me, and the police state showed up at my front door, all because I dared to tell the truth about what was going on at the hospital. And instead of investigating the hospital for concealing their crime against children, for concealing their activity, from lawmakers and from parents, they came after a pediatric nurse who anonymously came forward to affirm what had previously been reported. And so, my husband and I looked at each other as soon as they left, and I told my husband, we will never help them. And I don't regret anything that I've done. I don't regret anything I've said. This is because children deserve to be, everything I've done is because children deserve to be defended and protected. But we didn't know what to do. There's no blueprint on the steps to take after the federal government shows up at your house threatening you. And so we really turned to our faith in God. We're evangelical Christians, and specifically the passage in Ephesians 5 was very meaningful to us. It says to take no part in the worthless deeds of evil and darkness, but expose them, for everything exposed by the light becomes visible. And so we felt very compelled and convicted to not shrink back and allow that fear and the anxiety to set in, but instead move forward and make decisions from a place of courage and conviction. We didn't know the risks. We didn't know what would happen in the future. There were a lot of unknowns. But what we did know is that we needed to speak out, we needed to fight back, and we needed to ultimately share what had happened to us with the world. And so, that was, thankfully, we were able to speak with attorneys. We got really good advice and counsel from them. And that ultimately led to my decision to